buhawi sa Arkansas, puminsala ng maraming mga tirahan.
May mga nadamay kayang residente sa mapaminsalang buhawi. Ang lagay po ng mga ito sa US state ating aalamin maya-maya. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Ricky Mathay.
Ako si Nina Richie Lago Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Huwebes.
Philippine exports na papasok sa US apektado ng bagong Trump tariffs.
Chinese state media iniulat na may 3 Pinoy na dinakip sa Beijing dahil sa umano'y espionage activity.
Global world trade niyanig sa bagong tariff policy ni Donald Trump.
At daan-daang pasahero sa cruise ship tinamaan ng norovirus.
And Russian-American vlogger Vitaly dinakip sa Pasay ng mga pulis dahil sa reklamong harassment. Napagdesisyonan ni Pangulong Donald Trump na patawan ng 17% reciprocal tariffs ang Pilipinas.
Ayon kay Trump, sisimula ng pagpapatupad nito sa darating na Abril 9. Gayunpaman, mas mababa ito sa porsyentong taripa na ipinapataw ng Pilipinas sa mga produktong galing naman sa Estados Unidos na 34%. Pero batay sa inilabas na annex ni Trump na nasa 18% ang reciprocal tariff rate na ibinigay nito sa Pilipinas. Ang pagpapataw ng mga taripa ay bahagi ng bagong patakaran ng Trump administration na Liberation Day. Git ni Trump, hindi naging balanse ang trading relationships nito sa mga trading partners ng Estados Unidos, kaya nagpatupad sila ng reciprocal tariffs.
Umalma ang Beijing sa naging panawagan ni Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief Romeo Browner sa mga sundalo ng Northern Luzon Command o NOLCOM na maging handa sakaling sakupin ng China ang Taiwan. Sinabi ni Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ko Zhuakun na huwag makialam ang Pilipinas sa mga isyu ng China. Anila bahagi ng internal affairs ng Beijing kung ano ang mga hakbang ng Chinese Communist Party laban sa Taiwan.
台湾问题是中国的内政，是中国核心利益当中的核心。如何解决台湾问题是中国人自己的事，不容他人智慧。我们奉劝菲律宾有关人士，不要在台湾问题上挑衅玩火，玩火者必自焚。我们也坚决反对有关人士毫无根据地发表颠倒黑白、抹黑炒作式的言论。
Batay sa inilabas na report ng Chinese state media na Global Times, mayroong 3 Pilipino na dinakip sa Beijing dahil sa umano'y mga aktibidad ng pang-espiya. Iginit ng Global Times na nalaman ng state security authorities na matagal na umanong nangangalap ng impormasyon ukol sa military deployment ng China ang mga sinasabing mga dinakip na Pilipino. Sa kasalukuyan, wala pang komento ang Philippine Embassy sa China, ang Department of Foreign Affairs, ang Department of National Defense, ang National Security Council at iba pang mga ahensya hinggil sa report na ito. Samantala, sa mga nakalipas na buwan, maraming mga hinihinalang Chinese spies ang inaresto na ng mga otoridad ng Pilipinas. Dati nang inanunsyo ng Armed Forces of the Philippines na pinapaunlad nila ang kanilang intelligence at cyber defense dahil sa mga ulat na may mga nagaganap na espionage activities sa bansa. Dahil rito ay hinimok ni National Security Advisor Secretary Eduardo Año ang Kongreso na amyendahan ang Espionage Act, gayon din ang Countering Foreign Interference and Malign Influence Bill.
Tiwala ang Department of Agriculture na bababa ngayong taon ang bilang ng rice imports sa Pilipinas. Ayon sa ahensya, dahil ito sa matatag na supply ng lokal na produksyon ng palay. Sinabi ni Agriculture Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa, nasa 3.8 million hanggang 4 million metric tons ang inangkat na bigas ngayong taong 2025. Mas mababa po ito kumpara sa inangkat na bigas noong taong 2024 na umabot sa 4.8 metric tons. Dahil dito, naniniwala ang kalihim na makababawi sa ani ang mga lokal na magsasaka dahil sa magandang produksyon ng palay ngayong taon. Tinukoy din po ng opisyal na walang pangamba ang mga magsasaka sa anumang banta ng El Niña, La Niña, El Niño at mga bagyo, hindi kagaya noong nakalipas na panahon.
Susunod paglabas ng bagong taripa ni Trump, umani ng reaksyon sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo.
Business owners nangangamba sa epekto ng Trump tariffs.
At bilang ng mga casualties sa Gaza, lumampas na sa 50,000. Detalye ng mga balitang yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Attorney Vic Rodriguez, matapang na sasagutin ang 25 tanong ng bayan. Ngayong Sabado na, alas 7 hanggang alas 7:30 ng gabi, dito lang sa NET25.
Ako po si Attorney Vic Rodriguez, Pilipino, abogado maisog. Abangan niyo po ang aking sagot sa 25 tanong ng bayan dito lang sa NET25. For business.
It is a signal to the world. We are open for business.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos. Every Sunday, 9 p.m.
Sa NET25.
Nayanig ang pandaigdigang merkado dahil sa paglabas ni United States President Donald Trump ng bagong taripang ipapataw sa halos 185 mga bansa. Si Carl kausapin para sa balita.
Nilagdaan na ni US President Donald Trump ang isang panukalang magpapataw ng malawakang reciprocal tariffs na sa iba't iba ng mga bansa. Ang bagong pataw ng mga reciprocal tariffs ay magtatakda ng 10% na pangkalahatang baseline tariff. Tumutukoy ang reciprocal tariff sa mga buwis o singil na ipinapataw sa gitna ng dalawang bansa o higit pa sa isa't isa bilang tugon sa mga naunang napagkasunduan ayon sa trade relations ng mga bansa. Sa kanilang tinatawag na Fair and Reciprocal Plan, ipinatupad ng US ang parehong halaga ng taripa na ipinapataw ng ibang bansa sa kanilang export na produkto. Ayon kay Trump, marami sa mga trading partners ng US ay nakinabang sa mababang taripa nila habang nananatiling mataas naman ang taripa ng ibang bansa sa mga produktong galing Amerika. Sa kontinente ng Asya, tinamaan ng malalaking porsyento ng taripa ang iba't ibang mga bansa tulad ng China, kung saan ang ilang mga kumpanya ay naglipat na ng kanilang trade route sa Vietnam at Mexico para iwasan ang dagdag buwis ng US. Hinainan ng Amerika ang China ng bagong 34% na kung susumahin ay mangangahulugan sa mataas na 54% para sa Beijing. Ipinasara din ang de minimis trade loophole kung saan nakakapasok sa Amerika ng libre sa buwis ang mga low-value exports galing China at Hong Kong. Nagpahayag naman ang China na maglalabas ito ng countermeasures kung hindi ikakansela ng Amerika ang mga panibagong taripa nito.
中方坚决反对美方基于所谓的232调查采取有关的关税措施，而此次美方再次以国家安全之名行贸易保护之时，很多的贸易伙伴都对此表示强烈不满。全球汽车产业高度依赖跨国的产供链，美方措施人为割裂美国与其他地区的产供链关系，既无助于所谓的国家安全，也帮助不了美国的国内产业，只会凸显美方措施的单边主义、保护主义和霸凌主义底色。
Nagpahayag naman ng pagkadismaya si Japan Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba matapos tamaan ng 25% na singil sa kanilang automotive industry na bumubuo ng malaking bahagi ng kanilang import sa Amerika. Hiniling ni Ishiba sa US na ma-exempt ng Japan sa kanilang pagpataw ng panibagong taripa.
我が国は2019年以来、世界最大の対米投資国であります。で、日本企業は米国経済に多大の役割を果たしてまいりましたし、今もそうです。で、アメリカ政府に対しましては、これまで一方的な関税措置について、さまざまなレベルで見直しを申し出てまいりましたが、それにもかかわらず、このような措置が実施されたということは、極めて残念であり、不本意に思っております。WTO 協定や日米貿易協定との整合性について、我が国として深刻な懸念を有しております。私自身がトランプ大統領に直接話しかけていくということが適当であれば、最も適当な時期に、最も適切な方法で働きかけてまいるということを全く躊躇するものではございません。
Mababa naman ang ipinataw na taripa sa India kumpara sa mga karatig na bansa sa Asia. Tinamaan sila ng 26% rate ng taripa kung saan malalamangan nito ang kanilang kompetisyon sa ilang sektor ng kalakalan. Ayon sa Global Trade Research Institute, matatandaang ang binabaan ng administrasyon ni Prime Minister Narendra Modi ang taripa ng mga high-end bikes maging ang pagtanggal ng buwis sa ilang digital services na nakaaapekto sa mga tech giants ng Amerika. Umaaray rin ang maraming bansa sa Europa maliban sa Russia na nag-iisang exception sa malawakang reciprocal tariffs ng Amerika. Ayon kay White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, hindi isinama ang Russia sa listahan ng mga panibagong taripa dahil sa kasalukuyang sanctions ng Amerika na humahadlang sa anumang makabuluhang pakikipagkalakalan dito. Ang European Union o EU, na isa sa mga major trading partner ng Amerika, ay naghahanda na ng countermeasures matapos tamaan ng 20% na taripa. Tinawag nilang malaking pinsala ang mga taripa ni Trump sa pandaigdigang ekonomiya at nakahanda umano ito rumisponde sa US.
Die jüngsten Zollentscheidungen des US-Präsidenten halte ich für grundfalsch. Das ist ein Anschlag auf eine Handelsordnung, die Wohlstand überall auf dem Globus geschaffen hat. Eine Handelsordnung, die ganz wesentlich auch das Ergebnis amerikanischer Bemühungen ist. Die gesamte Weltwirtschaft wird unter diesen undurchdachten Entscheidungen leiden. Unternehmen wie Verbraucherinnen und Verbraucher überall in der Welt, auch in den USA. Die US-Regierung beschreitet also einen Weg, an dessen Ende es nur Verlierer geben wird. Die Europäische Union verfügt über den stärksten Binnenmarkt der Welt mit 450 Millionen Verbraucherinnen und Verbrauchern. Das gibt uns Kraft. Wir stehen für Gespräche mit der amerikanischen Regierung zur Verfügung, um einen Handelskrieg abzuwenden. Das hat die Kommissionspräsidentin bereits deutlich gemacht. Deutschland und Europa stehen weiterhin für freien Handel. Wir setzen auf Kooperation, nicht auf Konfrontation. Und wir werden unsere Interessen verteidigen. Europa wird geschlossen, stark und angemessen auf die Entscheidung der USA reagieren. Schönen Dank.
Inaasahan na tataas ang mga presyo ng bilihin sa buong mundo dahil sa panibagong tariffs ni Trump. Bukod sa presyo ng pagkain, kasama din sa pagtaas ng presyo ang mga parte at components na bumubuo ng manufactured goods tulad ng automotive industries. Ayon sa mga eksperto, posibleng bagalan ng mga nasabing tariffs ang ekonomiya ng mundo at taasan ang posibilidad ng economic recession. Sa kabila nito, naninindigan si Trump na ang pagpapataw ng matataas na rate ng taripa ay makatutulong sa pagdagdag ng kita ng US government at mapaunlad ang pagmamanupaktura ng bansa. Carl Kausapin para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nakaabang ang mundo sa kalakalan o mundo ng kalakalan sa sinasabing reciprocal tariffs ni US President Donald Trump. Subalit ayon sa isang ekonomista, mas nakakapangamba pa ang kawalan ng katiyakan sa industriya ng kalakalan kaysa sa dagdag taripa ni Trump. Narito ang report ni Marjorie Quintos.
Noong Martes, habang nakaantabay ang maraming negosyante sa ganting taripa ng Estados Unidos, tumaas ang global shares sa gitna ng pabago-bagong trading. Samantala, umakyat naman sa pinakamataas ang presyo ng ginto. A-2 ng Abril ang anunsyo ni Pangulong Donald Trump ng tinatawag nitong Liberation Day, batay sa pangakong paghahayag ng malawakang reciprocal tariff plan. Tinukoy ni Mizuho Securities USA Chief Economist Steven Ricciuto ang tunay na issue sa sitwasyong taripa.
I think for the markets, the big issue here really is the uncertainty. I think markets would like to get it over and done with. Tell me what it is, let us adjust, and let us get on with it. It's this back and forth, what we're going to do, what we're not going to do, the fear of what they're going to do, we're going to do this, and then we're going to delay the announcement. And it's this uncertainty issue that's really bothering the markets, more than I think the tariffs themselves.
Sa kabilang banda, ipinaliwanag naman ni Ricciuto kung paanong hindi ang mamimili ang babalikat sa epekto ng taripa.
Consumer's not going to pay it all. The manufacturer is going to pay some of it. The currency is going to eat some of it. Look, for a lot of these companies, it's a loss minimization process. Okay, you know, if I'm a producer of a good, and I either I'm very much need the U.S. marketplace, then I run a risk. Do I shut down and go out of business, or do I take a loss for a while and see if I can adjust and lower my costs and become competitive again? It's a decision everyone's going to have to make individually. You saw reports earlier today of a particular German automobile manufacturer saying maybe it doesn't bring its lowest priced products into the U.S. anymore because they can't compete. Well, maybe that's the case, but I'm sure that'll open up opportunities for other manufacturers who can compete.
Noong Lunes, inilabas ng tanggapan ng US Trade Representative ang taunang report nito ukol sa foreign trade barriers. Nakasaad dito ang samot-saring tuntunin ng iba't ibang bansa na itinuturing na balakid sa kalakalan. Subalit hindi malinaw kung paanong maaapektuhan ng report ang planong ganting taripa ng administrasyon. Marjorie Quintos para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Sa gitna ng nakatakdang taripa ng Estados Unidos na ipapataw sa trade partners nito, hindi maiwasan na mag-alala ang mga mamimili sa Amerika. Narito po ang report ni Leslie Gumarang.
Pag-aalala at pagkabahala ang nararamdaman ng mga mamimili sa bansa dahil sa tila hindi na mapipigilan na panibagong mga taripa sa mga produktong inaangkat papasok ng Estados Unidos. Ayon sa isang residente ng Manhattan, lalong magmamahal ang mahal ng mga produkto na kanyang binibili.
I'm worried about the tariffs.
Why?
Because it's going to make most of what I buy more expensive if it still remains available.
Maraming pamilya tulad ni David Lawrence ang nababagabag.
My family's worried. I'm worried.
Ayon kay Manhattan resident Charmaine, maraming tao ang mapipinsala dahil sa epekto ng taripa.
I think it's going to hurt a lot of people in this country, yes. Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Well, the increase in prices, things are tough enough as it is now, and then increasing prices is going to hurt a lot of pocketbooks here. I'm not buying as much as I used to, that's for sure. Yeah, I just buy what I need, basically.
Para sa mga naninirahan sa maliit na espasyo tulad ni Teresa, mahirap mag-imbak ng supply kung kaya't kakaunti ang kanilang magagawang paghahanda.
There's not much I can do to prepare since so much of what I buy comes from outside the United States and I don't live in a huge apartment.
And yeah, some people do the stockpiling and stuff like that.
But it's hard to do with in not a large apartment in Manhattan.
Desiree Gumarang para sa mata ng Agila International, Trusted, Connected, On Point.
Tinupad ni US President Donald Trump ang pangakong anunsyo ukol sa panibagong malawakang taripa sa mga produktong inaangkat ng Estados Unidos. Ayon sa Pangulo, ito ay deklarasyon ng kasarinlan para sa bansa. Si Leo Velasco para sa report.
10% ang pinahayag na baseline tariff ni Pangulong Donald Trump sa lahat ng angkat papasok ng Estados Unidos. Kasabay nito ang mas mataas pang singil sa dose-dosenang malalaking trading partners ng bansa. Ayon sa Pangulo, deklarasyon ito ng kalayaan ng US. Ang malawakang taripang ito ay magtatayo ng panibagong balakid sa paligid ng pinakamalaking consumer economy ng mundo, ang US. Sinasabing pagbawi ito ng dekadekadang kalayaan sa kalakalan na humubog sa kayusang pamundo. Sa Rose Garden ng White House, pinakita ni Trump ang isang poster na may lista ng reciprocal tariffs. Kabilang rito ang 34% sa China at 20% naman sa European Union. Ito anya ay tugon sa taripa na ipinapataw sa mga produkto naman ng US. Ayon sa isang opisyal ng White House, ang penalties na ito ay patutupad sa 9 ng Abril sa humigit kumulang 60 mga bansa. Dalawa sa pinakalalaking trading partners ng US ang Canada at Mexico. Kapwa ito humaharap na sa 25% taripa sa maraming produkto. Ayon sa opisyal, ang baseline na 10% taripa ay magsisimula sa Sabado.
If this just isn't a strategic ploy to try to, bargain one-on-one with other countries to bring tariffs down on both sides, if this leads to an environment where there's higher tariffs globally for a sustained period of time, I think it could be quite significant. At sort of an economy level, the foundation of a strong economy is one in which people can specialize in what they do best. And the same holds for a global economy. Like the foundation for a strong global economy is when nations can specialize in the production of goods or services that they can do best. And, having no barriers to trade, makes the economy more efficient and provides sort of a solid foundation. So my concern would be that if these tariffs are long-lasting, it could have quite significant effects on, the foundations of global economies. I mean, so if I think we're going to apply it against a broad swath of countries on everything we import, I think, all products could get more expensive. I think the case with Taiwan is that we import a number of computer chips from them. And so, downstream from that is if computer chips become more expensive, then, perhaps personal computers become more expensive. Perhaps companies that rely on large services to conduct business like Netflix or, places that are building large service farms, maybe it'll get more expensive for, them to sort of produce their output. And so I think it's somewhat across the board.
Ipaniliwanag ng Assistant Professor ng Economics ng University of Delaware na si Thomas Bridges ang epekto ng mga taripang ito sa pundasyon ng ekonomiya ng mundo. Inaasahang sasagot ang US trading partners ng kani-kanilang countermeasures na maaaring magpataas ng husto sa lahat ng produkto. Ilang sandali matapos ang anonsyo ni Trump, na ikinagulat ng maraming mangangalakal, bumagsak ang US stocks. Leo Velasco para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Binigyang diin ng Mexico na hindi ito sang-ayon sa gantihan ng taripa sa pagitan ng Estados Unidos. Subalit, handaan nila itong tumugon gamit ang maingat na estratehiya. May Fanway Zaragoza po para sa report.
Noong Martes, sinabi ni Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum na hindi ayon ang kanyang bansa sa gantihang mata sa mata laban sa taripa ng Estados Unidos. Subalit ayon sa Pangulo, handa ang Mexico na gumamit ng strategic response sa sitwasyon. Idiniin ni Sheinbaum ang kahalagahan ng pag-uusap sa kabila ng nakaabang mga ganting taripa ng US.
No es que no queramos hablar, sino que no hemos podido cruzar agendas. Entiendo que ya esta semana ya podamos hablar por teléfono, no nos hemos comunicado, pero hay buena relación con Canadá y va a seguir habiendo buena relación con Canadá.
Samantala, inanunsyo rin ni Sheinbaum na may karagdagang listahan ng alleged drug traffickers mula sa Mexico na inihahandang litisin sa US. Ito ay bilang pagpapatuloy ng cooperation efforts sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa. Ang extradition efforts na ito ay sa gitna ng bantang taripa ng US at ng mga akusasyon ni Pangulong Donald Trump na hindi gumagawa ng sapat ang Mexico upang pigilan ang trapiko ng droga papasok ng Estados Unidos, partikular na ang fentanyl.
Hay más listas de extradiciones y en la medida en que se pueda colaborar, se colabora. Entonces sí hay, pero desde hace tiempo, no desde ahora. Además de las 29 personas que...
Sa isang operasyon noong Pebrero, nag-extradite ang Mexico papuntang US ng halos 30 individual na may kaugnayan sa drug cartels. Ito ay bahagi ng mga hakbang upang wakasan ang karahasan dulot ng kartel. Noong Martes, kinumpirma ng White House na itutuloy ng US ang malawakang bagong taripa ngayong Miyerkules. May Fanway Zaragoza para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Bago pa man ang formal na anunsyo ni US President Donald Trump ukol sa panibagong retaliatory tariff plans ng US, sinabi na ni Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum na hindi nito ipatutupad ang tit-for-tat o ganting taripa sa Estados Unidos. Narito ang report ni JC Yumul.
Tinawag ni US President Donald Trump na Liberation Day o Araw ng Kalayaan para sa Amerika, ang araw ng kanyang anunsyo ukol sa retaliatory tariff plans ng bansa noong Miyerkules. Sinasabing ang planong ito ay magpapalala ng global trade wars, kabilang na sa pangunahing trade allies ng US na Mexico at Canada. Pinangangambahang dahil dito, tataas din ang presyo ng bilihin at bubulabog sa dekada-dekadang kaayusan ng kalakalan. Kaugnay nito, sinabi ni Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum na sa Huwebes ilalahad naman ng Mexico ang isang komprehensibong programa ng taripa. Ito aniya ay hindi pagganti sa pinapataw ng US kundi bilang pagpapalakas sa ekonomiya ng Mexico.
Mañana vamos a anunciar, es un programa integral lo que vamos a anunciar. No es un asunto de si tú me pones tarifas, yo te pongo tarifas, o aranceles, yo te pongo aranceles. Nuestro interés es el fortalecimiento de la economía mexicana, entre otras de la industria automotriz. ¿Cuál es el anuncio que da? Pero nosotros tenemos un plan de fortalecimiento de la economía.
Samantala, ukol naman sa dekada-dekadang water treaty ng Mexico at US, sinabi ni Sheinbaum na tutuparin nito ang kasunduan. Ito ay matapos tuligsain ng US State Department ang pagpapatupad ng kasunduan. Noong Marso, sinabi ng US State Department na sa kauna-unahang pagkakataon, tatanggihan nito ang isang non-treaty request ng Mexico ng isang special delivery channel para sa tubig ng Colorado River na dalhin sa Tijuana.
Ellos nos dan una cantidad de agua en el Colorado, que por cierto es mayor que la que nosotros entregamos por el Bravo, por el río Bravo. Entonces, hay acuerdo en este momento, hay negociación con Estados Unidos, porque pues, ha habido muchos años de sequía. Entonces ahora el Bravo pues trae menos agua. Pero vamos a cumplir con el acuerdo poco a poco y por eso ahí.
Ayon sa kasunduan noong 1944, kailangan mag-deliver ang Mexico ng 1,750,000 acre-feet ng tubig sa US sa loob ng 5 taon. Sa ilalim ng kasunduan, tatanggap rin ng tubig mula sa US ang Mexico galing sa Colorado River. JC Yumul para sa Mata ng Agila International, Trusted, Connected, On Point.
Nagdeklara ng ceasefire ang militar ng Myanmar kasunod ng lindol na kumitil sa mahigit 3,000 buhay at nagdulot na matinding pinsala sa rehiyon.
ငရင်တံကြောင့်ထိခိုက်ခံစားနေရသောတနိုင်ငံလုံးရှိပြည်သူလူထုအားစာနာထောက်ထားနားလည်သောအဖြစ်၎င်းကုညီကယ်ဆယ်ရေးနှင့်ပြည်내ထူထောင်ရေးလုပ်ငန်းများကိုအရှိန်အဟုန်ဖြင့်ဆောင်ရွက်နိုင်စေရန်ရည်ရွယ်လျက်၎င်းတည်ငြိမ်အေးချမ်းမှုကိုရှေ့ရှုလျက်တမတော်နေဖြင့်2025ခုနှစ်ဧပြီလ2ရက်နေ့မှ22ရက်နေ့အထိကာလကိုယာယီပြစ်ခတ်တိုက်ခိုက်မှုရပ်စဲရေးကာလအဖြစ်ထုတ်ပြန်လိုက်သည်
Maraming gusali ang gumuho at iniestimang nasa 28 milyong katao ang naapektuhan at libong-libong katao naman ang naiwan ng walang pagkain, tubig at masisilungan. Sa kabila naman ng ceasefire, inireklamo ng mga humanitarian groups ang mahigpit na seguridad ng junta na nagpapabagal umano sa relief operations. Ayon sa International Rescue Committee, punuan ang mga ospital, kulang ang gamot at lumalaki ang banta ng sakit mula sa maruming tubig. Sa Mandalay, iniulat ng Doctors Without Borders na nasa 500 gusali ang tuluyang nagiba at 800 iba pa ang nagtamo ng danyos. Samantala, aalis ngayong Webes si Junta Leader Min Aung patungong Thailand para sa isang regional summit kasama ang mga leader ng India, Bangladesh at Thailand. Itinuturing itong bihirang foreign trip ng general na may kinakaharap na international sanctions at isang ICC investigation. Hindi po siya pinapayagang dumalo sa mga pulong ng ASEAN. Kaagad namang nagpadala ng rescue teams at tulong ang China, subalit ayon sa mga ulat, pinapahirapan ng junta ang relief operations. Sa isang insidente, nagpaputok umano ang militar ng warning shots sa isang convoy ng Chinese Red Cross na dumaan sa isang conflict zone ng walang abiso. Nanawagan ng Human Rights Watch na payagan na ang malayang pagpasok ng humanitarian aid at sinabing hindi mapagkakatiwalaan ang junta sa disaster response.
Tumanggi ang Hamas na sagutin ang counter-proposal ng Israel para sa isang tigil putukan sa Gaza. Sa halip ay nanindigan ito sa orihinal na kasunduan ng mga tagapamagitan mula sa Egypt at Qatar.
הלילה ברצועת עזה העברנו הילוך. צה"ל תופס שטחים, מכה במחבלים, הורס את התשתיות, ואנחנו עושים דבר נוסף. אנחנו תופסים את ציר מורג. זאת תהיה הפילדלפי השנייה, ציר פילדלפי הנוסף. משום שאנחנו עכשיו מבטרים את הרצועה, ואנחנו מוסיפים את הלחץ צעד אחר צעד, כדי שיתנו לנו את חטופינו. וככל שלא ייתנו, כך הלחץ יגבר עד שייתנו. אנחנו נחושים להשיג את יעדי המלחמה, ואנחנו פועלים ללא לאות, עם קו ברור, ועם משימה ברורה. ובעזרת השם, בעזרת חיילינו הגיבורים,
Ayon sa panukala, palalawigin ang tigil putukan ng 50 araw. Magpapalaya ang Hamas ng 4 na bihag na Israeli, kabilang ang sundalong si Edan Alexander, kapalit ng 2,250 na prisoners na Palestinian. Hihinturi ng mga operasyong militar ng Israel at bubuksan ang mga lagusan para sa makataong tulong. Noong March 19, muling naglunsad ng opensiba ang Israel sa Gaza, sinakop ang mas maraming lugar at nag-utos ng malawakang paglilikas. Ang Hamas ay nais agad ipatupad ang ikalawang yugto ng kasunduan na kasama ang pagpapalaya ng iba pang mga bihag at pag-atras ng mga tropang Israeli. Samantala, nais naman ng Israel na palawigin ang unang yugto ng kasunduan.
Hindi po bababa sa 55 katao ang napatay matapos ang panibagong airstrikes ng Israel sa Gaza. Umabot na sa 50,400 ang kabuoang bilang ng mga nasawi mula noong October 2023. Ayon po yan sa Gaza Health Ministry. Maraming pambangkay ang nabaon sa lupa at nahihirapan ng mga rescuers na kunin ang mga ito. Sa kabila ng ceasefire at pagpapalaya ng mga bihag noong buwan ng Enero, naglunsad pa rin ang aerial attack ang Israel noong March 18 na pumatay naman sa 1,042 na katao at mahigit naman sa 2,500 ang nasaktan. Samantala, inanunsyo ng Israel ang malawakang kontrol sa Gaza kasama ang Morag Corridor na hahati sa lungsod ng Rafah mula sa natitirang bahagi ng teritoryo. Ang Israel ay kasalukuyang nahaharap sa kaso ng genocide sa International Court of Justice. Dagdag pa rito, naglabas ang International Criminal Court ng arrest warrants laban kay Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at dating Defense Minister Yoav Gallant dahil sa mga krimen sa digmaan. Sa isang hiwalay na insidente, hindi bababa sa Siyam ang napatay sa Israeli airstrike sa Syria, kabilang ang mga lokal na mandirigma. Bukod dito, silalakay rin ng Israel ang 5 lungsod kabilang ang isang mahalagang airbase sa Hama. Nagdesisyon na umalis ang gobyerno ng Hungary sa International Criminal Court or ICC sa mismong araw ng pagbisita ni Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu kay Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Nag-issue ng arrest warrant ang ICC kay Netanyahu dahil sa mga alegasyon ng war crimes sa Gaza. Mariing tinutulan ni Netanyahu ang mga paratang at sinabing politically motivated ito, bunsod ng anti-Semitism. Nangako naman si Orban na hindi nito aaksyonan ang arrest warrant ng ICC laban sa Israeli leader at sinabi pa na ang desisyon ng ICC tungkol kay Netanyahu ay pakikisali sa isang kasalukuyang gulo para sa mga layuning pampolitika. Nagpasalamat si Netanyahu sa pagkampi ni Minister or Prime Minister sa kanya.
You stand with us at the EU, you stand with us at the UN, and you've just taken a bold and principled position on the ICC, and I thank you, Victor. This is not only important for us, it's important for all democracies. It's important to stand up to this corrupt organization that has equated a democracy that is challenged for its very existence by the most horrific terroristic powers on earth. But the ICC directs its actions against us, fighting a just war with just means, and of course not against our tormentors, not really.
Samantala, sinabi naman ni Jurgel Julius, Chief of Staff ng Hungary, na sisimulan ng kanilang gobyerno ang withdrawal procedure sa ICC sa Huwebes, alinsunod sa konstitusyon at international legal framework. Bukod sa Hungary, kumalas din ang Pilipinas sa ICC noong taong 2018 sa ilalim ng Administrasyong Duterte. Umalis din ang Russia sa ICC noong taong 2016 matapos i-classify ng korte na isang armed conflict daw ang ginawang annexation ng Moscow sa Crimea. Ang Estados Unidos, China, Israel at Iran ay kabilang sa iba pang mga bansa na hindi state parties ng ICC kaya hindi obligado ang mga bansang ito na isuko o ikulong ang mga akusado ng ICC.
Ayon sa ilang sources, nanibak na ng staff ang administrasyon ni Pangulong Donald Trump sa mga ahensya ng kalusugan sa Estados Unidos. Kabilang rito ang Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Food and Drug Administration at National Institutes of Health. Kaugnay ito ng plano ng gobyerno na tanggalin ang may 10,000 health jobs. Si Bernard Gonzaga para sa karagdagang balita.
Noong Martes, nakitang nakapila ang mga empleyado sa labas ng isang building ng Department of Health and Human Services sa Washington, D.C. Ayon sa mga ulat, ang linya ay dahil sa karagdagang seguridad. Ang pagsisante ng mga empleyado ng health agencies ay bahagi ng malawakang plano ni Pangulong Donald Trump at ng kanyang kaalyadong si Elon Musk na paliitin ang federal departments at agencies. Ayon sa isang FDA employee, kinakailangang ipakita ng aid staff ang kani-kanilang badge pagpasok sa gusali. Samantalang ang mga nasisante na ay binigyan ng ticket at sinabihang anyang umuwi na. Nakatanggap naman ng emails ang ilang nasisanteng staff noong Martes ng umaga. Ayon-anya sa email, sinasabing ang kanilang terminasyon ay walang kaugnay sa kanilang serbisyo, uri ng pagtatrabaho o pag-uugali. Batay sa email, ang mga ito ay agarang ilalagay sa administrative leave. Ang mga sinisante naman sa CDC ay staff ng National Center for Environmental Health, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration at National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases. Ayon din sa isang source, kabilang naman sa tinanggal sa NCIRD ay isang individual na nagtatrabaho sa Federal Response to Measles Outbreaks. Bernhard Gonzaga para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Susunod, mahigit 200 pasahero sa cruise ship tinamaan ng norovirus.
Boracay business owner humingi ng hold departure order para kay Vitali.
At unggoy na nagnakaw ng phone sa Thailand, nag-selfie. Yan at iba pang mga balita sa pagbabalik pa rin ng Mata ng Agila International.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka nang mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Each individual has their own goal. Every shot we make takes us to a whole new distance. And where the grass is green, something will definitely begin. This is the third NET25 Golf Cup, April 14, 2025 at the Alabang Country Club. For inquiries, you may contact 0951 597-5645, 0917-322-8369.
Naglabas ng isang tornado emergency ang lokal na pamahalaan ng Arkansas matapos tumama ang malakas na buhawi at bagyo sa nasabing estado. Batay sa lokal na ulat, isa na ang namatay dahil sa kalamidad habang maraming mga puno at poste ng kuryente ang tumumba dahil sa lakas ng hangin. Inabisuhan din ng National Weather Service ang mga residenteng iwasan muna na lumabas ng kanilang mga tirahan dahil sa buhawi. Bukod pa po sa Arkansas, dinaanan din ng malakas na buhawi ang Illinois, Indiana, Missouri at Mississippi. Inaasahan din ng National Weather Service ang malawakang flash flood sa South at Midwest states dahil sa nabubuong thunderstorms.
Tinamaan ng norovirus ang mahigit sa 240 mga pasahero at crew ng luxury cruise ship na Queen Mary II. Ayon sa U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 224 sa 2,538 passengers at 17 naman sa 1,232 crew members ang nagkasakit dahil sa matinding gastrointestinal virus na nagdudulot ng pagtatae at pagsusuka. Natuklasan ang outbreak habang malapit nang matapos ang biyahe ng barko na nakatakdang bumalik sa Southampton sa April 6. Agad namang nagsagawa ng mas mahigpit na paglilinis ng Cunard Line ang operator ng Queen Mary II. Bilang bahagi nito, nag-quarantine ang mga apektadong pasahero at nakipag-ugnayan sa CDC Vessel Sanitation Program upang pigilan ang pagkalat ng virus. Ang norovirus na madalas tawaging cruise ship virus ay madaling kumalat sa mga kulob na lugar katulad ng cruise ships, dormitoryo at mga hotel. Maaari itong manatili sa affected surface ng maraming araw kaya mahalaga ang tamang paghuhugas ng kamay upang maiwasan ang impeksyon. Sa kabila ng masusing paglilinis, babala ng mga eksperto na mahirap pigilan ang pagkalat ng virus na yan. Ang outbreak na ito ay kasunod ng record-breaking na bilang ng gastrointestinal illnesses sa mga cruise ships noong 2024 kung saan naitala ang 16 outbreaks, ang pinakamataas na record sa mahigit na isang dekada. Sa ngayon, may 11 na mga incidents na ng parehong sakit ang naitala ngayong 2025 at siyam rito ay sanhi ng norovirus. Pinapayuhan ng mga health experts ang mga pasaherong may sintomas na agad ditong iulat, sundin ang mga payo ng medical staff at palagiing maghugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig dahil hindi gaanong epektibo ang alcohol-based sanitizers laban sa norovirus.
Kahapon lamang na-aresto ng Makati City PNP ang vlogger na si Vitali. Kasalukuyang nasa kustodiya na ng Camp Bagong Diwa Immigration Facility ang suspect habang naghihintay ito ng deportation. Bago ang kanyang mga ginawang gulo sa Bonifacio Global City o BGC, matatanda ang may video si Vitali kung saan sa Boracay naman siya nanggugulo ng ibang turista maging mga Pilipinong trabahador. Nag-request po ng whole departure order ang water sports company na We Sports ng Boracay para sa nuisance vlogger na si Vitali. Ito ay sa kabila ng mga pending complaints sa kanya katulad ng harassment at defamation of businesses na maaaring mabaliwala kung madedeport po ang dayuhang ito. Narito po ang ating exclusive interview.
Yeah, so basically, we had a previous guest. We were talking, it was like nice talk. And suddenly this person appears there and then he was streaming online already. Now, Limo took care of them and I went to the office just to, tell the guys we're going to use this board and prepare the batteries. And I basically didn't see what happened there. So basically when I left, Limo was there doing the briefing. And of course, later on, I found out on his streaming platform what he did. But of course, I didn't see what generally happened there. When I came there, Limo was shaking and he was like, "Sir, can you do the briefing?" I was like, "Oh no, it's your job. I can't do the briefing." And he was shaking. So and I asked him, what that he should wear the vest and the helmet. We're doing the electric e-foil rental. So it's a new eco-friendly water sports in Boracay, and it's amazing water sports. So that's basically what we do. Limo basically is our head instructor.
Itong pagpunta nila sa spot namin, and then may isang talaga na tour guide na nagdala sa amin doon, which is mag-avail daw ng e-foiling. Then-explain ko sa kanya, ma'am, na sabi ko, "Sir, magkaiba po yung surfing and then magkaiba po yung e-foiling. Surfing is, magpapadol tayo. Ito naman kasi, ma'am, which is remote gagamitin natin. Yung lang doon, ma'am, which is nag-insulto, pahiya sa mga tao habang naka-live po siya, ma'am. So, doon po, ma'am, nanginginig na ako. Hindi ako makapag-focus sa briefing ko. May mga 3 position pa siya na ginagawa na hindi kaaya-aya tignan sa mga tao. First time po nangyari na magkaroon kami ng ganitong klaseng guest. Sa almost 2 years, sobra 2 years na ako nagtatrabaho dito sa We Sports na to bilang head instructor. Eto pala yung nagkakaroon sa akin na gawan ako ng ganito and then pahiyang sa mga tao.
Is this the first time that you've encountered, Nick, being a foreigner yourself doing business in the Philippines, is this the first time that you've encountered somebody of that character who was maligning and disrespecting the locals?
Yeah, if I can say something, I've never seen this in my life. Like this was, when I saw it later on, because he was streaming online and one of the person from the world, he was like, he's insulting your company. He wants to destroy your company. I was like, what? And then we suddenly received, 5-star. We have only a 5-star. We're trying to really take care of the reputation. And suddenly I received on the Google 1-star, was very rude, a message like, put your helmet. And it was very rude. Someone told me he's trying to put your company down, your brand, He was arrogant, and how he suddenly used his power of the influencer or YouTuber to destroy someone's company because he doesn't want to wear a helmet. I've never seen so disgusting and disrespectful behavior from anyone else around the world.
Do you think ginawa niya yun para sa likes, para sa views?
If prank lang naman, ma'am, okay lang if prank na, like, alam mo yung, like, hindi siya personal eh. Kasi ito, ma'am, sinira na yung pagkatao namin for viewers na siniraan niya.
People took notice of it already. The local government that took notice already, and they have arrested him. This is the latest. They have arrested him so that he will be deported. What is your take on this? Are you okay with him being deported?
Well, the thing is, like, when I saw on the other day what he was doing, during the briefing, and what he posted basically when it is for our company, I felt like you can't do this to the local people. They're so nice, you know what I mean? So I always fight for the good, and this was, like, for me, disgusting. So when I posted on Facebook, on my social media, like what he did to us, we start to be viral, and then people really staying behind us. If you're earning money through the social media as an influencer, and you paid for that, and he has lots of money because he's streaming of that, he's supposed to pay for it. I want him to pay whatever the judge will say, but I want him to put to the custody or, before judge or trial, something happens. So I don't want him to deport it now. I want him to do something, like pay for his sins, and then to the local people, and then do something with that, because this can't be tolerated anywhere. And if we're not going to do something, he just go to another country, he will do the same thing. This country doesn't deserve this kind of influencer, and he should be example that if someone wants to do this and disrespect the local people, we will stand behind all these people and then fight against this. So basically, the lawyer basically wrote down all. We notarized that I went to immigration to make it faster, to send it to the immigration to Manila, not to deport him, but basically keep him in the custody or jail, whatever it is, to wait for the proper trial. What we should do next, something like that.
Limuel, may nakita ka bang parang nag-sorry man lang ba siya? Na sinabi niya it's a prank? Meron ba siyang parang remorse? Parang nagsisi ba? Wala.
Wala po akong narinig na galing sa kanya na humingi ng patawad. Isa lang po yung narinig ko doon sa kanya, ma'am. Sabi niya po hindi ko lang po sasabihin na kompleto, ma'am. Yung sabi niya doon, which is POS. Like, sabi niya ako pa daw yung mismo yung lalapit doon sa hotel niya, and then hihingi daw ng patawad sa ginawa ko. Sabi ko, ano ba yung nagawa kong kasalanan? Like, nagbigay lang naman ako ng para sa'yo, para sa safety mo. But ako pa mismo yung hihingi ng sorry sa kanya.
What are you hoping to happen after all this?
Well, I hope that, of course, he's going to be banned from all social media where he's earning money, where it's the word I can't really say, like he's earning the money, monetizing. So
Monetizing.
Yeah, so demonetize from all his platforms and be blocked from, especially from the streaming platform that he's doing these things, to the people. But it's not just here. What I saw in other countries, what he was capable to do, it's something terrible. Like, he's not a human being for me. It's a trash for me. Terrible.
Pagbabayaran niyo yung nangyari sa akin, sa company namin, syempre, ma'am, ito lang yung pinupunan namin araw-araw ng panggastusin sa pamilya ko. So, isa lang din yung hiling ko na sana lahat ng platform na meron siya, like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, something, is mabana rin para wala na siyang mana. Yun ang diwan namin.
Sinisikap na po nating kunan ng pahayag si Malay Aklan Mayor Floribal Bautista patungkol sa nasabing insidente. Hinihintay rin ang pahayag ni Vitali at ng kanyang producer.
Salip na saging ang nakawi ng isang unggoy na ito sa Phuket, Thailand ay ninakaw nito ang cellphone ng turista para mag-selfie. Naging viral ang video ng TikTok user na si Ju na may caption na Monkey Hill Attack. Sa loob ng video, makikita ang grupo ng mga babaeng turista na naggagala sa Khao Tosay sa Phuket Province. Sa gitna ng kanilang pagbisita sa lugar ay dito na nang agaw ang hayop ng phone. Buti na lamang ay may lalaking Thai national na tumulong sa kanila na bawiin ang phone mula sa unggoy.
Dalawang Denver Legends ang hinirang ng kasaysayan o sa kasaysayan ng liga magmula sa MVP caliber performance ni Nikola Jokic hanggang sa first ballot Hall of Fame confirmation naman itong si Carmelo Anthony. Kay Lara po para sa balitang yan.
Makalipas ng ilang taon na paghihintay, malalagay na sa listahan ng Basketball Hall of Fame Class of 2025 ang isa sa mga pinakamagaling na offensive players in NBA history. Inanunsyo ng senior NBA insider na si Shams Charania ang nomination ng 40-year-old 10-time All-Star na si Carmelo Anthony para sa Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. Matapos magkamit ng 28,284 career points sa loob ng 19 seasons, naglaro sa 6 na NBA teams at nag-uwi ng 3 Olympic gold medals para sa Team USA, nararapat sa kanya na makabilang sa greatest of all time. Tumatak sa kanyang mga tagapaghanga ang kanyang kahusayan bilang isang landmark player ng laro kasama ang Hall of Famers na sina Dwayne Wade at Chris Bosh. Matatanggap niya ang kanyang well-deserved spot kasama ng iba pang NBA legends sa opisyal na pagtatanghal nito sa Springfield, Massachusetts. Samantala, nagkamit ng career-high 61 points ang Denver Nuggets center na si Nikola Jokic sa kabila ng kanilang 140-139 double overtime loss laban sa Minnesota Timberwolves. Pinatunayan niya sa labang ito na umabot ng 53 minutes na kung bakit siya ang leading season candidate para sa Kia MVP Award kasama ng 10 rebounds at 10 assists na isang highest triple-double in NBA history. Kyle Lara para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
At narito po kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Magandang gabi. Ako po muli si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Lago Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para po sa iba pang mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines.
Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46% and much higher for certain items like cars.
Tonight, President Trump's sweeping tariffs are sparking global concern, with economists warning of potential economic fallout.
So my concern would be that if these tariffs are long-lasting, it could have quite significant effects on, the foundations of global economies.
And the Philippines' F-16 purchase and its reassurance to China. Myanmar's leader leaving for a summit amidst earthquake devastation. And how iconic artworks are now accessible to the visually impaired.
And the news starts now. President Trump declares a new era of economic independence with sweeping tariffs on imports, but economists warn of potential global fallout and increased costs for American families.
This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It's our declaration of economic independence.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday
announced he would impose a 10% baseline tariff on all imports to the United States and higher duties on some of the country's biggest trading partners.
In the face of unrelenting economic warfare, the United States can no longer continue with a policy of unilateral economic surrender. We cannot pay the deficits of Canada, Mexico, and so many other countries. We used to do it. We can't do it anymore.
The tariffs deepen a trade war he kicked off on his return to the White House and reverses decades of trade liberalization that have shaped the global order. He used a poster to illustrate reciprocal tariffs.
They like me, I like them.
Including 34% on China and 20% on the European Union. Trading partners are expected to respond with countermeasures of their own that could lead to dramatically higher prices for everything.
Effective at midnight, we will impose a 25% tariff on all foreign-made automobiles.
Meanwhile, a separate set of tariffs on auto imports that Trump announced last week will take effect starting on April 3rd. Economists have warned that tariffs could slow the global economy, raise the risk of recession, and increase living costs for the average U.S. family by thousands of dollars.
We should be very concerned. The last time trade war on this scale has happened was in 1930s. Exactly 1930, it was Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, and it led to a global recession worldwide. And if this trade war escalates, we could see a slowdown of the global economy on the scale of a global financial crisis of 2014 and possibly deeper. And this is the largest threat which would affect the whole world.
So my concern would be that if these tariffs are long lasting, it could have quite significant effects on, the foundations of global economies. I mean, so if I think we're going to apply it against a broad swath of countries on everything we import, I think, all products could get more expensive. I think the case with Taiwan is that we import a number of computer chips from them. And so, downstream from that is if computer chips become more expensive, then, perhaps personal computers become more expensive.
Now, President Trump has imposed new tariffs, and the Philippines is among the nations facing a 17% reciprocal duty. The tariffs, which also target China, Japan, the EU, and other ASEAN members, are significantly higher than the 10% baseline applied to some countries. The Philippine government is now assessing the potential economic impact. Now, that sentiment is echoed by Moody's Analytics. They note the Philippines' relatively low trade surplus with the U.S. and its long-standing alliance, making the 17% tariff particularly concerning. It was disappointing that the Philippines was not included in the list of countries that were served a baseline 10% tariff increase, given that it has a relatively low trade surplus with the U.S. and has been an ally of the U.S. for some time. The Philippine government is now working to determine the full extent of the economic consequences. Other Southeast Asian neighbors have been hit with even higher duties, such as Cambodia with 49%, Vietnam with 46%, Thailand with 36%, Indonesia with 32%, and Malaysia with 24%. Singapore, a key U.S. trading partner with a free trade agreement, is facing unexpected 10% tariffs. 10%. Now, the country's trade minister says they are disappointed but will not retaliate.
We are naturally disappointed that despite our strong and long-standing economic and commercial relationship with the U.S. under the U.S.-Singapore Free Trade Agreement, we are also subject to the same 10% baseline tariffs. The U.S.-Singapore FTA has been a very important FTA for both countries and has benefited the U.S. significantly. Under the FTA, we have recourse. We are able to take countermeasures and also seek dispute resolution. However, we have decided not to do so because imposing retaliatory import duties will just add cost to our imports from the US, and this will affect our consumers and our businesses.
A major trade clash looms as the EU warns of immense consequences from President Trump's tariffs.
U.S. President Donald Trump escalated a global trade war with new tariffs Wednesday that threatened to stoke inflation and stall growth. After Trump unveiled the plan, it left world markets rattled and drew condemnation from world leaders. They include a 10% tariff on most goods imported to the United States and much higher levies on dozens of trading partners, including allies. Japan and the European Union were not spared, facing 24% and 20% tariff rates respectively. Tokyo's government spokesperson called the tariffs extremely regrettable.
我が国は2019年以来、世界最大の対米投資国であります。で、日本企業は米国経済に多大の役割を果たしてまいりましたし、今もそうです。で、アメリカ政府に対しましては、これまで一方的な関税措置について、さまざまなレベルで見直しを申し出てまいりましたが、それにもかかわらず、このような措置が実施されたということは、極めて残念であり、不本意に思っております。WTO 協定や日米貿易協定との整合性について、我が国として深刻な懸念を有しております。私自身がトランプ大統領に直接話しかけていくということが適当であれば、最も適当な時期に、最も適切な方法で働きかけてまいるということを全く躊躇するものではございません。
While Ursula von der Leyen said they were a major blow to the world economy.
Millions of citizens will face higher grocery bills, medication will cost more, as well as transportation. Inflation will go up, and this is hurting in particular the most vulnerable citizens.
She said that the EU was already finalizing the first package of countermeasures in response to tariffs on steel and were preparing for more should negotiations with Washington fail. China was faced with a fresh 34% tariff on top of the 20% Trump previously imposed. The world's #2 economy vowed its own retaliation despite a warning by U.S. Treasury Chief Scott Bessent that such moves would lead to escalation.
China has repeatedly stressed that there are no winners in trade wars and tariff wars, and there is no way out for protectionism. China urges the U.S. to correct its wrong practices and negotiate with countries around the world, including China, to resolve trade differences in an equal, respectful, and mutually beneficial manner.
Trump's top economist Stephen Miran said on Fox Business Wednesday the tariffs would work out well for the U.S. in the long run, even if they cause some initial disruption. However, outside economists have warned that tariffs could slow the global economy, raise the risk of recession, and increase living costs for the average American family by thousands of dollars. Even some fellow Republicans have expressed concern about Trump's aggressive trade policy. Hours after the announcement at the White House, the Senate voted 51-48 to approve legislation that would terminate Trump's Canadian tariffs, with several Republicans breaking with the president. Passage in the Republican-controlled U.S. House of Representatives, however, was seen as unlikely.
Okay, so something huge has just happened for the global economy. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced the steepest American tariffs in a century. This has big implications for businesses and consumers all around the world. We all trade with one another, and this move has just made trading way more expensive. Let's take a step back. What is a tariff? Well, it's a tax on goods and services coming into a country, on imports, and it's typically calculated as a percentage of the value of that good or service. Now, who pays? That's an interesting question. Domestic companies that are importing goods into a country typically pay the tariff, so U.S. companies that are importing goods into the U.S. will pay the tariff to U.S. customs. Importers often then pass that cost on to customers by raising their prices. Trump's tariff plan is sweeping, and it upends the global trading order. He's imposing a minimum 10% tariff on all trading partners, but he's imposing higher rates on dozens of countries that have large trade surpluses with the US. So China, for instance, is being hit with a 34% tariff. That's on top of a 20% tariff that Trump had already imposed. Vietnam is facing a 46% levy and the European Union 20%. The global 10% tariff will go into effect on April 5th, and that's going to be replaced then by those individualised higher tariffs on April 9th. Trump has also introduced a 25% tariff on foreign-made cars and has previously imposed 25% duties on steel and aluminium imports. So why is he doing this? Trump and his advisors argue that decades of trade liberalisation have been bad for the US. They say that the US has been losing out because while its economy was open to trade, other countries have been protecting their own industries. Trump says that by building a tariff wall around the US economy, that will encourage foreign manufacturers and US companies operating abroad to build plants in the US and hire US workers. That all sounds great, so why are financial markets tanking? Tariffs tend to lead to price increases. Those importers tend to pass on the cost of the tariff to their customers. That means inflation or rising prices, which most of us are sick of, and it also puts people off spending, and that's bad for economic growth. Almost all analysts see the end of free trade as a shock to US and global economic growth, and they're going to be revising up the risk of recession. So what happens next? It's not clear how permanent these tariffs are going to be. The White House is saying it's open to horse trading with different countries, so we could be facing months of grueling trade negotiations. And all that uncertainty means it's going to be hard for firms and ordinary people to plan long-term investments. If you think of an example, if you're going to be building a house or doing renovations this year, if the steel that you need is going to cost 25% more, are you going to pay for it, or will you hold off to see how things develop? It's that kind of pause that's bad for businesses, workers, and economies overall.
The auto industry is also bracing for impact as President Trump's 25% tariffs take effect. From plant closures to price adjustments, the $460 billion levies are causing significant turmoil.
Donald Trump's 25% tariff on US auto imports kicks in Thursday, and the levies look set to upend the industry. A Reuters calculation shows the duties will hit some $460 billion worth of cars and parts every year. The US president says that will create jobs and boost the economy as automakers shift production to America.
These tariffs are going to give us growth like you haven't seen before, and it'll be something very special to watch.
With the tariffs on vehicles in effect, the levies on parts will then start next month. Economists have warned it's all likely to mean higher prices and reduced choice for consumers, and there are already signs that could be true. The Wall Street Journal says Volkswagen will introduce an import fee for vehicles affected by the duties. It says the German giant has halted shipments from Mexico for now and will inform dealers by mid-April how prices will change for imported cars. Meanwhile, Stellantis, the owner of brands including Jeep, will shut one major plant in Canada for 2 weeks. That's according to a union official there, who said the move was driven by the new tariffs. Such signs of turmoil are unlikely to worry Trump, however, who has said he couldn't care less if foreign cars get more expensive. He says Americans can just buy locally made autos instead. Ford has said it will offer big discounts from Thursday in a bid to make that happen. But many big-selling vehicles from US brands are actually made overseas or are full of imported parts. Trade expert Vladimir Tyazelnikov at the University of Sydney says that means the levies may not produce the effect Trump wants.
Many of those tariffs, they are imposed on parts and components, on inputs, which are used in production of American goods. So the effect on many industries, such as car manufacturing, could be the opposite. It would make goods produced in the US more expensive and therefore less competitive on international markets and less affordable in the domestic American market.
For now, prices may not rise immediately as dealers have pre-tariff cars in stock, but a surge in sales over the first quarter of the year suggests consumers are rushing to snap up those vehicles. Once they're gone, price rises may not be far behind.
President Trump's Liberation Day tariffs had triggered a global sell-off. Now markets are reacting sharply to the new levies with fears of rising prices and a constrained global economy.
Global stocks tumbled Thursday as markets digested Donald Trump's big reveal on tariffs. A day earlier, the US president set out sweeping new levies that exceeded most expectations.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time.
Trump set a minimum 10% tariff on most imports, with much higher rates on some countries. The move sparked an immediate sell-off, with Nasdaq futures falling 4%. Some $760 billion was wiped off the value of the so-called Magnificent Seven big tech stocks in US after-hours trade. Among them, Apple, which makes iPhones in China, down nearly 7%. The slide then rolled on in Asian trade Thursday. In Japan, hit with a 24% tariff, the Nikkei index was down around 3% by mid-morning. Hong Kong's Hang Seng fared slightly better, down around 1.5%, with techs also hit hard there. Computer maker Lenovo was off about 5% early on. Markets have been roiled for weeks by Trump's on-off approach to tariffs. Now Delaware University economist Thomas Bridges says that uncertainty has at least been eased, but he says wider concerns remain.
It's unclear how that relates to this administration's economic objectives. And I'm not entirely clear what their economic objectives are. It seems to be just more isolationist, but I think that will end up yielding a more constrained economy.
Trump says the tariffs will raise revenue and create jobs in the US, but economists widely predict they will raise prices and cast a chill over global growth. Such worries have seen money flow into traditional safe havens. On Thursday, gold hit fresh record highs above $3,160 per ounce, while government bonds and the Japanese yen also saw gains.
The Philippines is reassuring China that its potential purchase of F-16 fighter jets from the U.S. poses no threat.
National Security Council spokesperson Jonathan Malaya addressed China directly, stating the planned acquisition is not aimed at any third party. And this comes after the U.S. State Department approved a possible sale of 20 F-16s to the Philippines, estimated at $5.58 billion. We would like to assure the People's Republic of China that the planned procurement of the F-16 fighter jets to the Philippine arsenal does not in any way harm the interest of any third party. The Pentagon says the F-16s would enhance the Philippines' ability to patrol its territory and improve military interoperability with the U.S. However, Malaya clarified that the Philippine government has not yet received official communication from the U.S. regarding this approval. And this development follows U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's recent visit to Manila, where he reaffirmed the U.S.'s ironclad commitment to its defense treaty with the Philippines and pledged to bolster deterrence against threats, including what he termed Chinese aggression.
So we will ensure the freedom of navigation returns to that part of the world, just as pertinent to our conversation today, freedom of navigation is something the Philippines experiences in the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea. It's something we take very seriously.
China claims it has dismantled the Philippine spy network, arresting 3 individuals. Take a look.
This announcement comes amid escalating tensions between the two nations over the West Philippine Sea or South China Sea and the growing U.S.-Philippine security ties. China state media reports the arrested individuals were recruited by Philippine intelligence tasked with gathering sensitive military information.
Relevant Chinese departments have announced the specific circumstances of Filipinos in China engaging in espionage activities. Chinese judicial organs and relevant departments will strictly handle cases in accordance with the law and will also protect the legitimate rights and interests of relevant personnel.
CCTV broadcast footage of one arrest and a purported confession alleging the spies conducted surveillance near Chinese military facilities. China alleges the spies provided a large amount of military-related and confidential video materials causing serious harm to China's national security. The arrests follow recent reports of Chinese nationals being detained in the Philippines and a travel warning issued by the Chinese embassy in Manila.
Recently, the Philippines has fabricated many so-called Chinese espionage cases and has engaged in presumption of guilt, stigmatization, and politicization without clear facts. China firmly opposes this and has made solemn representations on many occasions. China urges the Philippines to stop making groundless accusations, handle individual cases involving Chinese citizens in accordance with the law and fairly, and effectively protect the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese citizens in the Philippines.
This development further strains relations between China and the Philippines, already fraught with disputes over territorial claims and the Philippines' strengthening alliance with the United States. As both nations trade accusations, the incident raises concerns about increased espionage activities and the potential for further escalation in the region. And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back.
Ang mga maiinit na balita at rumaratsyad ng usapan ng bayan, ihahatid namin sa 100%! 100% ang pagbabalita! 100% talakayan! Lunes hanggang Biyernes! Alas 5 hanggang alas 7 ng umaga! Live na live sa Radyo Agila 1062 Mega Manila! At sa NET25 100%!
Sa NET25, let's net together. Sa NET25.
Even as Myanmar reels from a devastating earthquake, its isolated leader, Min Aung Hlaing, is set to leave for a regional summit in Bangkok. Take a look.
Aid groups are pleading for easier access to survivors, while the junta and rebel groups trade accusations amid ceasefire announcements and ongoing conflict.
First thing that I think that really needs to be said is that this is a crisis on top of another crisis for children in Myanmar. So even before this earthquake, 6 million children in Myanmar were in need of humanitarian assistance. Now we've seen the official figures in terms of the death toll. We think it's very likely that there are hundreds of children that are among the dead. We believe that there are children that are under the rubble. If we're not able to reach these children, we don't have the support, yes, there's a risk of children dying, because we know that it's very likely that disease will proliferate. There will be disease in the earthquake-affected area.
WFP is on the ground. We have been for many years. We're now scaling up our operations to do emergency food distributions and also to provide emergency logistics and IT for the broader humanitarian response. It's essential that we get the levels of funding. We then need the access, and only then will we be able to have the impact that's required.
We were on the way home on the bridge when we felt the earth start to shake, and I stopped my motorcycle because I thought I had a flat tire. But when I realized that it was an earthquake, I started to panic as we were in the middle of the bridge, and we could go neither backwards or forward. The bridge was vibrating so strongly that we were thrown around, and within seconds, it was falling down. I called out to my daughter to hold on to me, but suddenly, both my daughter and motorcycle dropped into the river. I fell into the water as well. I managed to make my way to shore, and that was when I realized that she was still in the water, and I began searching for her. I feel that my daughter is still alive, next to me. Even though I know she has died, I am searching for her myself, as there are no rescue operations here. I have to hire divers myself for the search. $50 for the preliminary search, $200 if they find her body. I am struggling to pay them for the search, but I have to do it myself. No one is here to help me.
The powerful 7.7 magnitude quake has left thousands dead and millions in need of aid. China state media reports the death toll has now surpassed 3,000. The disaster comes as Myanmar struggles with the aftermath of a 2021 military coup, leading to international isolation and a widespread civil war. Despite the crisis, Min Aung Hlaing will attend a summit in Bangkok, a rare foreign trip for a leader considered a pariah by many nations. And this comes as the junta announces a 20-day unilateral ceasefire while warning rebels against attacks. Aid agencies describe a dire situation with overwhelmed hospitals and shortages of essential supplies. Human rights groups accuse the junta of hindering aid delivery with tight security measures. An incident involving warning shots fired at a Chinese Red Cross convoy underscores the challenges of delivering relief in a conflict zone. Despite the announced ceasefire, reports of airstrikes and military activity near quake-affected areas continue. Min Aung accuses rebels of planning attacks, while a major rebel alliance has also declared a unilateral ceasefire for humanitarian aid. Prior to the junta's ceasefire, the UN Special Rapporteur on Myanmar condemned the military's attacks as outrageous, calling for strong international condemnation. And Chinese rescuers have achieved a remarkable rescue in Myanmar. More than 120 hours after the massive earthquake, a survivor has been pulled from the rubble by Chinese rescuers. The rescue comes as the death toll surpasses 3,000 following the 7.7 magnitude quake last Friday. Now the man is reported to be in stable condition.
The Philippines is bracing for a potential massive earthquake dubbed the Big One. The government reveals many public buildings need urgent retrofitting to withstand the anticipated force. The Department of Public Works and Highways has assessed over 21,000 public buildings nationwide, according to DPWH Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral.
So as of to date po, nakapag-assess na kami ng more than 21,000 public buildings na ito ay marami dito i-recommend na namin for retrofitting. Pero meron na rin kaming natapos na retrofitting. Ang ibig lang sabihin ng retrofitting ay iakyat ang kanyang standards para sa international earthquake standards.
In Metro Manila alone, the DPWH has completed assessments on over 124 buildings. The Big One, a potential magnitude 7.2 earthquake from the West Valley Fault, looms as a significant threat. The Office of the Civil Defense is also emphasizing the critical need for strict compliance with the building code to ensure all infrastructure can withstand such a powerful quake.
Yung tatayo pa lang, ang dapat talaga sundin na nito yung strict provisions of the building code, na kaya nitong matatag ito sapat para kahit gano'ng kalakas ang lindol hanggang 8.5 magnitude, kayanin. So yung itatayo pa lang, yun yung hiningi ng tulong ng ating Office of the President, na yung mga LGUs natin ay nasa balikat po nila yan primarily. Tulungan tayo masigurado na ibibigay nilang construction permits ay tama at yung occupancy permits ay dapat tama rin, meaning yung plano ay ginawa. Kasi iba po yung plano, iba sa implementation.
As the threat of the Big One remains, the government is urging swift action to retrofit buildings and ensure infrastructure safety, highlighting the urgent need for preparedness.
Iconic artworks like the Mona Lisa and the Scream are now accessible to those with visual impairments, transformed into immersive audio experiences. Take a look.
Could music help the visually impaired experience art?
So the first hit appears there.
Iconic masterpieces including Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa and Edward Munch's The Scream are being turned into immersive audio experiences for those with visual impairments. The project, called Sound of a Masterpiece, is the brainchild of visually impaired composer Bobby Golder in partnership with composers from the New Radiophonic Workshop.
We were aiming not just to kind of write something based on the piece, but actually bring people further into the painting, and you can do that very effectively through music and soundscape.
At the heart of the project is audio technology that allows for sounds to be precisely placed and moved in three-dimensional space, including overhead, to create an immersive soundscape.
With Dolby Atmos and the surround sound speaker system, you can really kind of immerse yourself in the sonic experience, and with kind of several dimensions of sound, kind of, with a spectrum of sound across, from left to right, up and down, forwards and backwards.
Golda, who lives with Stargardt's macular dystrophy, is a professional pianist, composer, and musical director. His collaboration is seeking to bridge the gap between art and the visually impaired at a time when, according to recent research, almost half of the UK population do not feel that they can truly appreciate art.
There's so many things to consider when you're working with artwork and trying to kind of create parallels with music and sound, because we were trying to take into account not just the subject of what's kind of viewable on the canvas, but also the context in which the painter was working, and perhaps some of their character and some of their wider ideas, and really draw out those emotions.
The album features sonic interpretations of artworks such as Jean-Michel Basquiat's King of Egypt, David Hockney's A Bigger Splash, and Salvador Dali's The Persistence of Memory. It is available on various streaming platforms, and all proceeds are donated to the Royal National Institute of Blind People.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.